Tactics.
Tactics?
We're making our way through the book.
That's right. We're strategically making our way through the book on tactics.
Koukl would be so proud. sticking with it. We are like smack dab in the middle of the series. Kind of getting to part 2 of the book. If you're following along or reading on your own, we're going to cover today chapters 10 and 11. We're going to talk about the suicide tactic and what he will call practical suicide. Might not be as blatant. But
has nothing to do with the sad state of taking your own life. We're talking about ideas who, based on how they are, they can't live.
I wonder if this will get like shadow banned on YouTube or something. Everyone's always like bleeping out.
Because we're going to be saying the word a lot. Maybe we can change out the title. That might help. But
see something like that. So that's what we're talking about today. Talking a lot about self-refuting statements. We're kind of at a tipping point in the book where the way Greg Koukl talks about it is that now we're finding the flaws. Part 1, he would say, is kind of the game plan, those Columbo tactics, big picture. Now we're kind of zeroing in on more specific tactics or people you would come across, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's good because you would still be thinking about using Columbo questions 1, 2, and 3 when you are helping someone see that they have just given you an idea that really can't survive.
That's right. You're not throwing those away.
Right.
Those are very important. And as you ask those questions, you'll hear something and be like, okay, which different tactic can we apply? So with that in mind, let's go ahead and take it to the next level.
Let's fire up that twangy music.
From the heart of the Low Country in South Carolina,
it's the Take 2 podcast, where we take theology to the next level.
What I like about these podcasts is that we try to ground, and Koukl does this too, ground it in Scripture, kind of have the scriptural foundation that, we're talking about how to engage in these conversational apologetics, but it's not because... it's not for no reason or random, hey, we think these are great.
Yeah.
Actually, we find some of these biblical realities or truths in Scripture.
I think that's good. You got some scriptures here. I love Romans 1.
If you're in apologetics, you just got to know Romans 1.
People suppress the truth. Sin affects not just behaviors, but also reasoning.
Oh, that's good. It's not just like actions of sin. It goes deeper than that.
Yeah, and it's really weird to talk about someone who's self-deceived because you got to kind of think, but I think maybe we've all realized afterwards, like, there was something kind of gnawing at my mind, but I just pushed it down because I wanted to believe this. But I think that's what Paul is really talking about, this self-deception and our reasoning being affected by sin. Because sometimes we just don't understand spiritual truths well.
I think that's exactly right. And I think some of these tactics help that person kind of see that paradigm a little bit, and we maybe have that aha moment with the Spirit's working to open their eyes to these kinds of things. Proverbs 18 says, the one who states his case first seems right until the other comes and examines him. You hear someone first, it's like, that sounds like really good, but you don't have all the facts.
Right. Or you might get really pumped up, like, I can't believe that person did this to you. I'm going to go. And like, oh, wait. That's not what happened. And now I have both sides of the story.
And where that applies here is that someone can say a slogan or a catchphrase that does sound really good, but when you start examining the suppositions underneath it or the facts underneath it, it might not be so clear cut as maybe it seems on the outside.
What if someone said public funds for public schools? You're like, oh, that makes sense.
Sounds great. Yeah.
But there's really no such thing as public funds.
Yeah, that's actually my money.
Yeah, that's actually my private money that's going into this big pot. So, So
it's always good to get to what's underneath that idea. Then in Matthew 12, Jesus is talking to the Pharisees. And, this kind of gets to some of the suicide tactic. He's basically saying, you're saying I'm doing this by Satan. If Satan cast out Satan, he's divided against himself. That doesn't make any sense. That's actually internally inconsistent. So he doesn't just say no, but he kind of gives a reason why and shows them your whole way you're thinking kind of collapses on itself.
That's really good. So maybe we should talk about what is a self-refuting statement, because that's really the heart of this suicide tactic. It's when you make a statement that when you really look at it, it can't stand up on its own because it kills itself, in a way of speaking, by its own standard.
What Koukl does really well is he'll start in all of these tactics. He starts with very simple examples that you're probably not going to hear out in the wild. Like, no, they're kind of obvious. Maybe he will. People are crazy.
Yeah.
And then he kind of builds out to, okay, here's like a more realistic example. And so some of these you've probably heard a lot. Like, if someone's like, "There's no truth at all." Is that statement true? Is what you said true?
Yeah.
There's no absolutes. Is that absolutely true? Or don't judge anyone. Aren't you making a judgment? And you're just kind of asking the obvious.
We got that on one of our
we did.
Catholic responses. I was like, well, did you see my response to it?
What did you say?
I said something like, well, if your understanding of that scripture is right, then how you're applying it to me right now, you'd also be in violation of it.
And Koukl makes this point too, like with the small steps. You're not trying to hit a home run. You're not arguing for the merits of Christianity. You're just basically asking the question about the statement that they made, their claim. And again, sometimes it's very obvious. Sometimes it's not. One example I thought was pretty funny he used was, I used to believe in reincarnation, but that was in a former life. Like that's like a joke. That's a pun in there too. But or here's one. Nobody goes to that restaurant anymore. It's too crowded.
Right,
well, can nobody go there if it's so crowded? But those are things you might actually hear someone say, like,
I am going to be teaching physics this year instead of algebra, and I'm preparing some of my first lessons. And I want to kind of talk about the interplay of science and religion and physics and faith. And one of the things we're going to talk about is scientism, which was this belief that you could only believe things that are scientifically proven. And you could boil it down to a statement like this. Only statements that have a scientific basis can be believed or can be thought to be true. But that statement itself, it cannot be proven scientifically. So I talk in my notes that it's self-refuting. This verificationism, scientism has failed. Even though it was really popular in the early 1900s, you wonder how it gains popularity because it's self-refuting.
He brings up some other examples too in the book, talking about if someone says the Bible's flawed because it was written by humans, people make mistake. Koukl would say, do you think you can make mistakes? Or, there's that thing you said going to be true. You can make truth. Like things, you just dig down a little bit and you can really learn a lot more. And again, it's like just taking time to ask those questions and hearing someone talk through it. And sometimes you might not get that great conversation right away, but I think it opens the door to have them talk a little bit more about it, to uncover more and more and more. And really it's worth it if you don't have the book to get it, because that's basically what it is, just example after example after example to help you kind of become more familiar with different nuances.
Yeah, and especially, with these, they're kind of more obvious, but especially with the ones that we're going to cover in chapter 11, the temptation, and we're kind of repeating ourselves, the temptation is that you hear one of these things and you immediately want to just jump on it. But remember, ask questions. If someone says something like the only statements that can be trusted are ones that are scientifically proven, ask them, what do you mean by that? Like, can you say that another way? Not only is that going to make them think about it, but it's going to give you, and we're not playing games here, so it's not like it's gotchas, but it's going to give you more ammunition to use against them. And I'm using my fingers here to give me scare quotes, because it's not necessarily adversarial, but you want to draw that person out so that you can have their thoughts and you can understand it, but that also helps them understand it. When you ask them a question,
exactly.
There's been times when I've said, well, basically, what do you mean by that? And they're kind of just dumbfounded because all they are is repeating a slogan that they haven't thought through. But so when you see one of these things in the wild, the temptation is that's self-refuting.
Gotcha.
But just draw them out, have conversation, and they're not a means to a victory. Like, I scored that. I won that conversation. The person is the end. Like we want to win that person. We want to help them see the truth. We want to help them, adopt a proper worldview, which would include, trusting in Christ. So that they are the end. So I wouldn't want someone to think like this is just a debating style tactic to win a conversation.
Bigger picture. One that he kind of closes out this chapter with is one that you might hear a lot. Everyone says, hey, Christianity not for me. I believe everyone's got their own path. Buddhism, Hinduism, whatever it is, like you sincerely believe it, it's going to work out for you. And Koukl, how does that self-refute? Well, all of these Christianity says it's the only way.
Right.
So if that's right, just by necessity, all of these religions aren't okay with pluralism. You kind of dig down into some of that and specifics. And if I've learned anything from this book, it's that it's good to talk in details, good to talk in specifics, whether they have a good defense or not. It really brings out that understanding and conversation.
Yeah, you might hear someone say, well, all religions think that it's good to do, the golden rule, to do unto others as they'd have you do to them. And Koukl has said more than one time, well, it's not those minor places of agreement that matter. It's these huge places of disagreement that really
wars have
separate
been it's like where it's not just something. So that's kind of the chapter 10 all about suicide. Chapter 11 kind of moves to what he calls practical suicide, and he kind of moves towards using it. Well, maybe it's not quite as evident or in your face, but how do you uncover that? He takes a lot of time on what we've just been saying is don't rush through it, don't embarrass people, slow down. A lot of times you start talking fast and you're just going to miss what each other is saying. And so maybe we could get into some real life conversation examples that you might hear. Someone might say, and I think this is common when it comes to homosexuality, it's common when it comes to abortion, things like, I'm not a homosexual, but I think it's wrong to condemn anyone for their, sexual lifestyle. It's like not my thing, but can't condemn other people for it. I don't think that's right.
Right. So I guess the question is, hearing what Zach just said, listening to that, do you hear something that seems self-refuting already in there? And if you did, you might ask them a question like, well, what, you could try to immediately point that out to them.
Yeah.
But you might say, well, what do you mean by it's wrong to condemn someone?
Yeah, and you could say, well, that person might say, like, well, in condemning, like, you can't force your views on other people. That you're saying they're wrong. You can't do that.
Right. And then you might say, ask them, that second conclusion, second Columbo question, like, what led you to that conclusion? How did you, come up with that? What makes you believe that that's true? But then, kind of what we said is in that third question. Then you can kind of, once you get them on, to kind of what we call like setting the table with their ideas, you can say, all right, basically you're drawing attention to the ideas that they've already put out there. You say something like, well, let me ask you something. Is it okay for you to condemn me for calling this out? Because it seems like you're doing the same thing that you said that I can't do. You're telling me I'm doing something wrong.
Yeah. In effect, the one guy's portion his morality on you by saying, hey, you can't tell other people what to do. And that's probably a better place to start for most conversations than let me tell you why homosexuality is wrong. Or you're like launching into a different discussion when on its face you can be like, hey, why do you get to condemn me? Why can you say something and I can't? You're it's the tolerant, intolerant thing. Yeah. It just like, it seems like such a moral high ground from their perspective. And I think they really believe that. And then you start to uncover it and be like, okay, this is a two-way street.
Yeah. And then, if you were really having a conversation about this, what you might say, once you kind of get through that, like hopefully you can have that conversation, you can come to the conclusion, well, maybe you can't not condemn everyone because that just leads to total.
That's right.
You can't. People aren't saying anything. It's anarchy. But one question that I've heard suggested that I've used in conversation, you might say is, if there was a God like the God of the Bible who created everything and created us, would he have a right to say how we can use our body sexually? And that's a good question. And I think if anyone's intellectually honest, they'll say, yeah, if there is a God like the God, well, isn't that an important question in this big thing to talk about whether that God exists? And maybe you can start talking about some other things that are related and why it's, you have good evidence to think that there is a God and he created us male and female, and this is how he wanted us to live that out.
And I think that gets to a bigger conversation, into a bigger question where the suicide tactic really shines or is very useful comes when it comes to moral relativism. So all of these things where if you don't have someone making the rules and it's everyone knows right in their own eyes, this is like the perfect time to use it because everyone has preferences and they want you to see it through their eyes.
Right.
And they always not always, but I think oftentimes easier to sidestep it by saying, hey, I don't believe in abortion. I think that's wrong. But it's like, but I'm looking out for the other people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And if they applied that way of thinking to any other crime, it's like, I'm not for slavery, but I would, I wouldn't want to tell these plantation owners that they can't have slaves. Slaves aren't for me, but I think it's a personal call. Or, torturing people who are same-sex attracted, that's not for me, but I wouldn't want to make, that's like, you cannot relativize that. I think so helping them see that we're not talking about the same thing the same way. We think that there's a living person here and you can't kill that living person.
Totally. And you bring it back. Everyone's got rules that they want to live by. It just depends on whose rules it is, like you were saying, how to orient them. Another example he gives in his book, he talks about the Southern Baptist Convention. They were planning to evangelize this Jewish population in Chicago. The Jewish rabbis, they were upset, and so was the public at large. It was set up to look like, SBC's just forcing their views on like a historically Jewish part of town or something like that. And essentially the rabbis wrote back saying, keep your spiritual opinions to yourself. Stop trying to change other people's religious views. And Koukl points out, the Jews were mad that the Christians were trying to change their views, but their solution was for the Christians to abandon their views and change them for the Jewish view of not evangelizing. Like you got to, it's like doing the same thing just in reverse. And a question in this interview that should have been asked would be something like, I don't understand why you're trying to change our religious beliefs right now. Why don't you keep your views to yourself? and it's basically, it's not a good argument. They should have maybe argued on the merits of Judaism of being superior than Christianity versus like, hey, don't proselytize kind of thing.
Yeah. Our religious view is that you don't proselytize, so don't proselytize. Well, our religious view is that we do proselytize.
Stop forcing. Exactly. And so it's something I think with all these tactics, it's like just look for this kind of thing. I think it pops up more than you think, but most of us are just like running down the rabbit hole without just thinking about it. Again, don't use it as a weapon. I think the way it can go wrong, it's sometimes can be hard to sound genuine. You want to be, the best way to sound genuine is to be genuinely instantly. It can come off as like a sarcastic question, which you don't want to do that,
Right. Yeah. And I think how you lead in can help. Last time we talked about starting a question like, have you considered? And if you genuinely think that, like, believe that, then I think you can, like you're saying, if you are genuine, I think you'll be perceived as genuine most of the time.
I think you're right. And the questions are so good. I don't know if this lines up chronologically, but our last podcast with Charles.
Yeah.
Talking about the director.
Well, this one will air before that. So you will be getting a podcast on Thursday with Charles, and you want to say anything else about it?
He just brought up, it's a great podcast. Listen to it. It's great on House Productions. He talked about this director asking, and you were talking about this actually, asking questions to pull things out of you. And it's like, man, the best coaches for me in basketball or soccer be like, why did you make that pass, or what was going through your head, and helping me see, you should never, leave your feet to make helping me uncover this was a bad decision versus like just telling me don't do that. I can roll my eyes. I'll do better next time. But if I'm thinking through it, and it's better when the coach is like, walk me through that versus like, why'd you do, like sarcastically asking, it doesn't land the same.
That's good. That's good.
Anyway, things to think about, practically speaking. Listen, like if you could just like think, even if it's not, an evangelism kind of any conversation with friends, with coworkers, whatever. It could be about anything, politics, whatever. Listen for one statement. Even if you don't say anything, just try to like process that. Is this self-refuting? Like, would this be a good time to ask this kind of question?
Yeah, and I think especially if it's other topics, you can just be open. You know, you can ask some questions, and you might say, you know what, I don't, because this may be you, because I think we're all at different levels with this stuff. But you might go, I can't really put my finger on it, but something you said there seems like it's kind of self-refuting, like it. You know, and you might just, and you might ask their help. Almost everyone, when they're asked for help, wants to come to the aid, even if it's to uncover their own mistake. Be like, maybe you can help me figure out why I'm thinking that. And they may be a little bit defensive at first, but they may try to help you figure it out. But I think it keeps going back to this idea of genuine curiosity in people, caring about the person and not the conversation, which can be hard.
That is hard, because you're probably so fixated on something that's passionate to you, whether it's politics or whatever. You're like, oh, I know this is right. I just want to like show why this way is right.
Yeah.
It's like, man, just take a step back. It'll do everyone so much more. And then by the same merit, like think about these questions as you're talking, because I think a lot of us just assume things, and maybe you have a valid point, but the way you're articulating it is not the strongest argument. It's actually a self-refuting argument yourself. We probably have more of those than we like to admit. Even if it's the right answer, we probably should be thinking about it from a different foundation.
When I'm talking to people who hate the Pats, I see all these type of self-refuting things in there, but they can't see it. So
I love it. Well, that's
getting close to football season.
It is. It's right around the corner. That's suicide, practical suicide. Next episode, we're going to kind of progress from learning how to recognize ideas that defeat themselves. We're going to look at a different conversational tool, and really it's this idea that sometimes a belief doesn't collapse on its own like suicide, but if you actually follow it to its logical conclusion, you might not like where it leads, or they might not like where it goes. So it doesn't totally collapse. It ends up somewhere, but not in a good place.
Right. No, I think that's good.
So something to think about for next week. Our final take. Can I bring up something? Or do you have something you want to bring up? I've got something I'm very passionate about.
Oh, I had something that I was going to bring up, but maybe the thing that I was going to bring up is the same thing you're going to bring
communion?
up. Oh, no, it's not communion. But go ahead.
What a wild communion time this was.
Oh, yeah. What was it? Was it when I was trying to give the plate away, or what?
So many things. I'm kind of overstating it.
Okay.
But it's like hilarious. First off, trying to get Michael does this thing where he hand delivers the plate to everyone on the front row. I'm kind of the guy on the other side where, like, if you would pass it down the row, it would come to me. And basically, Michael hands it to me after walking his way down there. It was amazing.
Yeah, I was trying to be polite, and so
totally
the very first person has some little health issues. So I was like, I'll just serve her,
sense.
And then hand it to her husband. But then her husband just took some, and I was like, so I found myself in the position
once two people do it, then everyone's going to follow suit.
Right. So basically, and then I have to come around. So I tried to do it a little differently.
And then the best part of it too was, at the back, the sound booth, the way the layout was, people sitting, passed it back to you. So then you walked it over to the in the back.
Right.
Yeah. So you were just like getting your steps in. It was great.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So well, so we have two, just for our, if you're not part of our church, we have two main sections. So 3 aisles, and then we have 4 people, 2 people in the center and 1 on each edge. And on the right side where Zach and I were, there were fewer people. So we finished our service sooner. So I'm just trying to help things move along, especially because I know that first song that we were singing, it was getting over soon. I was like, well, I'll just help out by getting these. So is that you're laughing at me serving people who weren't on our side?
Well, not only that, but Sharon was like, so you basically were walking all the way over. There's no other way to do it, but it was just funny.
Yeah, because the person in the sound booth could have just handed it to you.
But that is tricky. It's like a little awkward, if you're not thinking of it. So that was like hilarious, A. And then B, we get back, and I don't know if I should say this, but the phone was going off.
Oh. So what happens? What had happened?
Yeah, let's hear it.
I have a setting for my phone that goes until 12:15.
Oh, yeah, gotcha.
And I don't want to say anything about our guest speaker. It was very enjoyable.
Great sermon.
Great sermon,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it was a little bit on the longer side. And then we had communion. So I think maybe it was 12:15, 12:05, 12:10. Anyways, it must
past
have
that
hit
time
right
frame,
after my setting, my church setting went off, and it allowed a phone call in. And I was like, I couldn't believe it.
was
But I was
great.
like, oh yeah, it's
The time. You handled it well. If you're going to have your phone go off, you do want to be sitting in the front right next to the speaker. It's like very loud there where, your phone probably doesn't carry as well. That's like the place to be, so worked out well, but a lot was going on.
Well, I thought I found it fast.
You did find it fast, yeah.
And muted it fast.
Yep, you did.
Which, like, you bet we all been there
And
where
you're
the
fumbling.
phone's going off for 10, 12 seconds and it's loud. It's like,
one of the best all-time phones go off. Jack White might have been doing announcements, or he was teaching Sunday school or something. Maybe it was his sermon he was preaching, and his phone was going off, and like no one was there to stop it, and it was like great. It's like his phone in the congregation while he was preaching.
Oh yeah.
It was great. So
that's good. That's
but I feel like it's just a lot going on. Needing to bring that up with community. You never know what's going to happen.
I also, in the middle of prayer at the end, got tapped on my shoulder, and the gentleman behind me handed me the stack of
Cups
for me to have it on there. And so
nice.
it was funny.
You just never know. It's got to be adaptable.
Right.
Never know what's going to happen. Be on your toes. I'm just glad there hasn't been a total juice just spill,
Yeah.
And honestly, we're on borrowed time.
Borrowed time. I think I've always thought if someone just completely drops this juice tray,
I know.
how do we recover from that?
I know. Something to think about, But thankfully,
we need to tell Alex, if you're listening to this may be a safety team.
Yeah.
Think about how does the safety team respond when juice goes flying?
Yeah, juice. Yeah, juice goes flying. You didn't say Jews, but
juice. When juice goes flying.
Also, I'm glad you brought Alex up. He's got this situation. I was going to ask him about it. He sits on the very right-hand side, like the seat next to the aisle.
Yeah.
And I was on that side. I noticed a Bible in like the windowsill kind of area.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know if that's like his personal. He's got the long arms, his personal Bible spot, where he doesn't have to like go under.
I mean, he should be wearing cargo pants. He shouldn't need that. He's just put it in the pocket of his cargo pants.
Alex, we want answers. We want to know: is that your personal like Bible cubby? He might have it. That's his cubby. He just puts his like Alex's cubby. Why aren't we using the cargo pants more? So many questions. We should have him on the pod one time and just, origin of every dad joke he's ever known and just get the story. But anyway, talking a lot about it. We can wrap it up. Anything else you want to add?
No, I think we can save mine for
that was great.
For a week from now. So you'll find out next Tuesday what my suggested banter was. So there you go.
All right. Well, that's our take. Thanks for listening to Take Two. Find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube for those who want to watch our video cast.